Is Block the next MicroStrategy? Ticker symbol SQ. Let's take a look at their financials, their latest press releases, some of their SEC filings, and then let's finish this off with the chart and see if Block has the potential to be the next MicroStrategy in this cycle. And before we get started, if you've been with us for a while and haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. It helps the channel more than you can possibly imagine. Thank you so much. Let's get into it. Let's have a look at it. All right, first of all, let's see here. Block shares jump on better than expected first quarter results. Let's go look at TradingView real quick here, and you can see that they did their earnings here on May 2nd. They had a 17% beat on their earnings per share and a 2% beat on their revenue reported, which caused them to do a big jump up of over 5% on Thursday, which was followed by a pretty significant dump. I mean, it opened up pretty big up here. Let's see how far it actually dropped that day. It opened up nice and big and way up, and then ended up climbing down nearly 9% that day. We do have a reason for that, and we'll see that in the SEC filings here as we get further into it. And it's really not something to be as concerned about as this candle indicates that it might be. But first of all, let's take a look at their first quarter results. All right. So a lot of this company gets its money from things like Cash App, also buy now, pay later, similar to like PayPal, but better because they make money and their stock goes up. Also, they have a Bitcoin aspect to their company, and that is their holding of Bitcoin. And we'll talk about that in just a second as well. So first of all, Cash App is a big part of their business. People send money back and forth. You can also buy Bitcoin on Cash App. They've also got Afterpay, which is a company they acquired in 2021 for $29 billion. It's a buy now, pay later business, but that's been posting losses for them, whereas Cash App has been making up a lot of that. They've also got their crypto trading aspects as well. Now they're also expanding that even further. But what they mentioned, so they talked a lot about Bitcoin in their Q1 report. Jack Dorsey talked a lot about it. And this is a quote from him. He said that less than 3% of the company resources are dedicated to Bitcoin-related projects. But why spend time on Bitcoin at all? We believe the world needs an open protocol for money, one that's not owned or controlled by any single entity. So he said Bitcoin will ultimately help Block serve more people around the world faster. He said Block will be investing 10% of its gross profit from Bitcoin products into purchases of Bitcoin. So they're going to start taking 10% of the money they're making from Bitcoin-related products, and they're going to put that money into buying Bitcoin. That is kind of big. It's not as big as MicroStrategy, so I don't think it's going to like run up to $2,000 or anything in a few months like MicroStrategy did. It's not nearly as aggressive, but they already have a decent treasury. They are a profitable business. This could be something that sends them back to their highs from previous cycles. One thing that's holding them back right now, though, is a federal probe looking into some of the transactions that they had completed on their Cash App. The feds are looking into Block right now, so that is a concern, something that could end up damaging the price action of the company going forward. So that is a risk for the company. Another aspect of Block that's quite interesting is that they are developing a Bitcoin mining system. So they developed a 3-nanometer mining chip. They plan to use that in order to develop a whole mining system, which means that they're going to be getting into competition with Bitmain for Bitcoin miners and trying to sell those to some of our favorite miners, maybe even get into some Bitcoin mining themselves. That'd be quite interesting if they started to do that, competing with everyone. And on that front, they said that they had looked at a lot of different miners and the challenges faced by those mining rigs and mining operators, and were trying to develop a better chip, and they believe that they've done that with this new chip. Now, here's something that's quite interesting about this article right here. I like this. All right, right here, this little section right there. Block announced the completion of a 5-nanometer Bitcoin mining chip prototype in May 2023, which is the same technology that Bitmain's S21 mining machine uses. This leads us to believe that the 3-nanometer chips could achieve even greater efficiency than the S21s. The S21s are one of the most efficient Bitcoin miners on the market today. If they could get something even more efficient than that, you better believe that the mining companies will be looking at that for replacement of their S21s going into the future. You can see here on this list here that the power consumption of the S21, even at 9 cents per kilowatt hour. You would only need a Bitcoin over $46,000 in order to be profitable in terms of the electricity used in order to mine that Bitcoin. And a lot of our favorite Bitcoin miners are mining with electricity costs 5 cents or even lower in a lot of cases. So if they could make it even more efficient and deliver that to the market, that would be very, very exciting here. Now this is in the future. This isn't something that's happening right now, but it is being announced. It's something that they're working on. And if they are able to pull this off, that could be quite interesting for their business. So let's take a look at their treasury. Block has a treasury of 8,027 Bitcoin currently, or at least that's what's listed here currently. Now that is a far cry from MicroStrategy's 214,400 Bitcoins. But remember that MicroStrategy's business doesn't actually make any money, so their entire valuation is really based off of Bitcoin, which is why it moves so closely with Bitcoin. Block is making money without the Bitcoin, so that's something to keep in mind here. Now their treasury is relatively small. Similar to that of Riot, slightly bigger than CleanSpark. So they're not going to get some huge run up from a Bitcoin increase in value, but it'll be something similar to like what Riot would get, but possibly even better than that, simply because Riot is beholden to the Bitcoin network and the absolute viciousness of that industry, whereas Block has other revenue streams that is not Bitcoin related, and it can continue to make money that way. So it may get a little bit of a benefit of the doubt in that respect that Riot may not receive, being solely a Bitcoin miner. So that's something to keep in mind, that that treasury could play a big role in its future movements here coming up. One thing that I am a little bit concerned about is some of their insider trades right now. This is one of the things. Now let's go to the SEC filings. You can see here that there was a 144, which is insider selling, filed on May 1st, right? May 1st. This big old minus 9% candle came in on May 3rd, meaning we're pretty sure that that was insider selling. You also come down here, and all of April, April 1st through the 3rd, just a whole bunch of insider selling listed in early April, then again in mid-March, then again in late February, and then again in January. You can see it's a theme here lately that there's been a lot of insider selling. So that might be a cause for concern. That is another risk to keep in mind. There has been a significant amount of insider selling on Block lately. Take that in tandem with the federal probe, and it's a little bit concerning. There is risk there. So go ahead. Of course, this is not financial advice and not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any assets whatsoever. Do your own research, do thorough research before buying anything, but this is something to keep in mind when looking at this stock. Specifically, the feds are interested in what's going on at Block. There is a significant amount of insider selling that's been going on for the better part of this year, or pretty much the entirety of this year. There has been a little bit of dilution that came in late 2021, 2022. Now, we haven't really had much dilution since 2022, just a little bit, few hundred, like 100 million shares or so. It's a big company. Didn't represent that much. As you can see, it barely moved. The big jump was 2021, and you can see they tend to do it in big jumps. Like 2015, they did it from 280 million shares up to 330 million shares, and then just like a slow grind up to about 460 million shares, and then in 2021 that big jump up to 580 million shares, and now we're currently sitting at 610 million shares. So dilution does occur in this stock, just like with many stocks, but they seem to be absorbing it quite well. Anyways, get rid of that ad. The other thing that was pretty interesting about this is, if I go to the stock analysis right here, you can see one, short interest, not a lot of short interest, despite the federal probe. Despite the insider selling, there is not very much short interest. It's actually quite low at 2%. That's not bad. Also, analysts are seeing a potential 25.8% upside on this stock, up to $87.42. That's pretty great. Projected earnings growth going into the future is also seeing an increase of about 81.4%. They can pull off some of these other plans that they've got related to Bitcoin, staying profitable on their Cash App, the buy now, pay later, which is going to become a bigger and bigger thing as we go into a deeper recession here. Plus, you add Bitcoin into the mix, I think that this $87 price target starts to look a little bit low. And we'll take a look at the charts here in just a moment to get more interest in that specifically, but there's one more thing I want to look at here. At least one more thing I want to look at here. Actually, a couple. I lied. It'll be like 3. Price to book. All right, their price to book ratio is 2.3, and it's been under 3 since 2022. Remember, the average for a price to book ratio is about 3. So they're undervalued from their price to book ratio currently. Now their price to book is above their actual book value by 2.3, meaning that their assets aren't equal to their price by that much. But on average, most companies have about a 3. And you can see here in 2021 during the crazy run in March, which was a few weeks before March 30th, a few weeks before the Bitcoin peak for the early part, the first one, they reached a price to book of 44. So if we went from 2 to 44 right now, that is massive. That's absolutely massive gains from where we currently are if it were to do that again. And it might be coming up. One other thing that I like about this, if we go here to total liabilities, okay, they've got $15.37 billion in liabilities. That's going to include all current and non-current debts and obligations. So all their financial obligations equate to $15.37 billion. Keep that in mind, because look where we're going to go next. We're going to go back to their total assets, $34 billion. Their total assets is $34 billion. We like to call this a TATL ratio, total assets over total liabilities, and you want that to be as high as possible. Currently, their TATL ratio is 34. What did I say? It was 15.37 billion. We're looking at a TATL ratio of 2.2, meaning their assets outweigh their liabilities by a factor of over 2. So that is actually quite good. I like that TATL ratio. That means that they've got money in order to protect themselves from potential downside. I like that a lot. The other thing I want to look at here, and this is how I'm going to use this as a way of calculating a potential future price on this here in a moment. So this is their market cap, their highest market cap ever. Well, we're going to do 2 things here on their market cap. Notice one was in February 11th, 2021. That was a solid 2 months before the Bitcoin peak in spring of 2021. So they peak a little early there, and they did it again over here. This peak here was in August. Sorry, that peak, the next peak on the market cap was in August 2021, which was a solid about 3 months before the Bitcoin ultimate peak. So block tends to run ahead of it a little bit. Now let's take a look here in 2018, it was 2017. It was late 2017. Let's see, October. Yeah, they peaked in November, which was about on track with Bitcoin. So they lead Bitcoin a little tiny bit on terms of their price peaking and then falling a little bit. So keep an eye on that here, and also look at this. So this is something we're going to see repeated in the chart here when I go into it in just a moment. You can see that we've been sitting at a very low area here, just accumulating, and we've been doing that since 2022. Look very familiar to back here from 2018 to 2020, where price was just accumulating there for a while before rocketing. Yeah, we've been doing that for a while now. Now let's take a look at the chart. So the daily chart, doesn't look amazing, right? We've been in this descending channel, but remember, descending channels, they tend to break to the upside. You know what? I don't like this line as much anymore. Let's draw a channel instead. I like those a lot more. We're going to start about right here. We're going to take this channel down to about right. I want to touch at least a couple there, and we're going to go to about right there. Boom. Right about there. In fact, let me do that a little bit differently. Let me get this a little wider, get it up to the top of that one, and the bottom of that one at the top there. I went to the bottom of this one up here. All right, perfect. This is the channel I'm looking at right now. And in fact, I'm going to lock this down. When we get out of this channel and stay out of this channel, meaning when we exhaust those insider sellers, we are likely to take off from here, especially if Bitcoin starts to take off. When we get out of this descending channel, up above $72.65, we're very, very quickly going to find ourselves up at around $80, right? $80, also probably closer to mid-80s. We're going to find ourselves very quickly up here in this zone right around here, between $81 and $85. We're going to find ourselves very quickly in there. And in fact, I'll leave this on the chart as well. I'm going to make it really see-through though, because I don't like tons of stuff on my charts if I can help it. Okay, I'm going to lock that down as well. Currently, we're in my little box here. Remember when we were on our way up over here and I said, hey, I'm looking at price coming down to about 60 into the mid 60s or so. I drew this line here, I drew this box, and I said it's going to get into this box, turn around. Remember when I said that? Well, we touched the box, bounced off of it, then we came to the bottom of the box, bounced off of it. Now we're back to the midline of this descending channel here. This is an area where I'm looking at potential accumulation. This is where I'm looking at potential accumulation of block. Of course, this is not financial advice, not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. So let's take a look at this on the weekly chart. See what this looks like on a weekly chart. All right, so we're going to see some things here. Let me turn off the drawings. We're just going to look at pure price action for a while. What are we seeing here? We're seeing from that 2018, right, all the way to 2020, mostly flat, right? We traded in a range between $50 and about $82, which looks very similar to over here, doesn't it? Our lowest low was 38, but we traded largely in a range of about $51 to about $89. Very, very familiar, correct? What happens when we break above this $89 level, this $89, $90 level? What's above us? Absolutely nothing. There's absolutely nothing holding us back. As soon as we get above this, we come into this area here. We're very quickly going into the mid hundreds before we hit any resistance. Then we start charging up to about 191 before we hit this resistance pocket up here, which was this major head and shoulders thing up here, wicked looking one. And then we start coming up and we start hitting major resistance around $222, which from our current price is a significant growth. Let's have a look, see. What would that be? If we started growing, we went to, let's say we did 127, like I said, 80% growth, and then we could go all the way as high as 191, which is 173% growth, and really around 220-ish, yeah, around right there, around 224, 225, 220% growth from where we currently are, sometime around the Bitcoin bull run, which is when we had these peaks over here in 2021, and also when we had a bit of a run up here in 2017, all the way back here. 2017, November 2017, we had a run up from, let's say, the summer 2017. In the summer, we were down at $24 and we ran all the way up to $49. What was that movement? How much percent? Oh, look at that, about 100%. That's pretty sweet. I mean, it continued rocketing up. I'm assuming this was for other reasons, because after 2017, there was the Bitcoin crash, which is, you can see represented in this chart here, right here. It came, right, 2017, November, and then all the way down for January 2018, which is when we started seeing the Bitcoin crash in 2018. And then something else must have happened in the company around this time, because it just went up and up and up and up from there. But that's what we're looking at here. What I'm looking at is a Wyckoff sort of pattern here. Let me turn on my drawings again. So Wyckoff, we had an accumulation area followed by big impulsive move, big impulsive move, followed by a distribution zone, which was between $193 and $289. It even had the final little retail thrust over here. You see this one? Let me get my drawing out here. Right here, this one right here, this little thing that took out the other high to make you think it was going to go higher. That was that final little retail thrust. Once all of the institutional sellers got out back in this area here, this little move up here, this was all retail, thinking that they were going to go to the moon. And then it sold off hard as you can imagine. It's just the worst, most apocalyptic sell you've seen. And it came all the way from $293 all the way down to $95 before it even paused. And all it did was give you a little bump up and come all the way down to $57, where it sits around that level today. And once we get out of this zone here, and if I drag it over from back here in 2020 to 2018, look where we are again. We're in that same little zone. What's happening again right now? Oh, I don't know. The Bitcoin halving is happening right now. They're getting very excited about Bitcoin in the block company. They're talking about it more. They're doing a lot more stuff with it now, and they're going to be buying it going forward even more than they have been, meaning that they want to get a piece of this action over here all over again. Is what they're looking to do. Will they succeed? I don't know, but it is on my radar. It is something I'm watching now. Block is on my radar. I am looking for Block to potentially make a move at least up to around the 135, like 120, like 127 to like 135 range, like maybe 110. Like let's say 110 like a doubling or better. That's what I'm looking for. Now, if Bitcoin goes up to like $1 million, not saying it's going to, but if it did, I'd be looking more for like that $200 range again. Now, let's take a look at how many shares outstanding they have versus their previous market cap. Let's do that. Let's do a little calculation here. How high do we think it can go based on market cap and current outstanding shares? So the current outstanding shares are 611 million shares. The current market cap is $42 billion, and their highest market cap ever was $126 billion. So let's go ahead and see if we get back just to the previous all-time high market cap. That's all I want to know. Previous all-time high market cap, $126.69 billion divided by that 611 million shares. 126.46 billion. Ooh, nice. Divided by 611 million. $206. So with the current shares outstanding for Block, if they're capable of reaching their previous all-time high market cap from 2021, with current shares outstanding, we are looking at a share price of $206.97. $206.97. Where would that put us at here? 206.97. 206.91 is pretty close. Let me double click that. Let me double click that. 297. 206.97. Put it on there, lock it down. That's what I'm looking for. And if we go from our current price up to there, that would be a move of 197%. So we're looking at a potential 197% move if Block can simply meet its previous all-time high market cap with its current outstanding shares. That's a lot higher than my targets here between 110 and like 135. I still think that's not a terrible target to have. But the potential is there to go up to a potentially $200 from $69. If we take that price, 206.97 divided by 69.47, I want to say it is. Yeah, 47 is the current price. We're looking at a potential 3x move on this, which is honestly what I'm looking to potentially get from some of the Bitcoin miners at this point. So this is not a terrible thing to have on the radar to be looking at in terms of, do I want to potentially find some alpha in some other stocks outside of the Bitcoin miners, outside of MicroStrategy, something that hasn't run up yet, because you can see it's beaten down. It's near, so it's honestly, it's about midpoint on its range that it's been in since 2022, that it was in from 2018 to 2020. We're in the middle of that range. If you're looking for something that could be potentially beaten down, potentially undervalued at this time, I think Block is one to consider. Of course, this is not financial advice and not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. Invest at your own discretion, do your own research, of course, come to your own conclusions. Make the right decisions for you and your portfolio. This is simply one that I have been watching. I'm continuing to watch, and I'm looking for that breakout move that's going to take it out and above this $87 and even higher up into the 100s. One thing I do want to do before we go is I want to look at the SMAs. And this is the weekly now. These are the weekly SMAs. Let's turn off all other things right now. We bounced off the 50 SMA. We have to get above the 20-week SMA, which currently is at $73.99. We have to get above that. Before we get above that, the threat of coming lower remains stronger than the ability to go up. That is our level of resistance, and it's going to be strong because the 5 and the 20 are converging there, which means that we could be hanging out stuck like a magnet to this 50-week SMA for a while, just like we've been doing on Bit Digital, just like we've been doing on a few other stocks we've been following here. You can see in the past we have bounced off of it, though. We were hanging out mostly below it since 2021, and then we came up, tapped it in January 2023, came down, came up slightly above it in summer 2023, came all the way back down, and then we finally broke above it in Q4 2023. Now we're above it, and we're bouncing off of it now. We might dip below it one more time. We could dip below this thing one more time before we really take off. That could happen, so keep an eye out for that. This is not just a go blindly invest in this thing kind of video. This is something of saying, I'm watching this. This is on my radar. This is something that I am taking into consideration, that I'm waiting patiently for a move on before I'm going to be deploying any capital into this thing. I'm just waiting for that move, because look where the 200 is. The 200 week is all the way up here at $129. That is smack dab in the middle of the range I just gave you. $129 is the 200 week moving average, which will be strong resistance on our way up. It will be that strong resistance where we see a move similar to like this one right here. So when we see a move similar to like this one, but in the opposite way, right, where we come down and then shoot up from there versus going up and shooting down. It'd be the opposite, but a very similar sort of thing that I'd be looking for on that chart. Let's take a look at the daily real quick on this thing. Where is all the action on the daily? Let me turn off the drawings. There's too many. Okay, we bounced off the 200. Remember how I was talking about the 50 week? On the daily chart, that's the 200 that we're bouncing off here, that we got stuck below since 2021, basically, where we peaked up above infrequently a couple of times before we finally broke out above it and started using it as support. Notice how back here, when they broke through the 200, it was very dramatic and very quick. And now we're bouncing off of it. Now we're hanging out above it. It's using it as support now. So it is now support. If we get below it, which we might do for a short period of time, I'd be looking for it to pop up quickly back over, retest it from above, and then start to launch again. That's what we're looking at right now. Again, watching this drawing right here, watching this descending channel, looking for a breakout of this channel and above this area here around $73. Once I start seeing that, that's when I start getting very interested in potentially taking this into my portfolio personally. Like I said before, not financial advice, not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. With that said, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a profitable day.